So as you observe now, what is your level of comfort with the skill level of folks that they have now?
Well, I must say, it's fascinating to me. There are a lot of people around this country doing mediation, and doing the complexity of some of the cases that are being mediating is really quite remarkable, and I think that's great. There is also, if you sit in some of these sessions at these conferences, like this ABA conference, and you begin to hear the different approaches. To give one, for example, I was a panelist on a panel discussing mediating complex cases, and one of my panelists, I was on the panel with Jack Trotter, who's a retired judge from Southern California, and Jay Folberg was moderating the session and sort of asked us both, how do you wrap your head around this case? How do you sort of get started with it? And I went into detail about how I do a lot of pre-mediation conference calls and work with the attorneys to think through the issues about who ought to be there, what should I know in advance, how do we kind of structure this, etc. And doing both joint calls with the attorneys and sometimes separate individual calls. And Jack, who of course is he's a retired judge, has a very different kind of schedule than I do, basically reads the briefs the night before and then walks into the mediation room for a complex case. And there's pros and cons to both approaches, I think. But I use that to illustrate the tremendous difference when you sit in these workshops and you hear the different ways that people practice. Of course the tendency is to sort of say, hey, my way's right, do it my way. And of course that's not necessarily true. There's pros and cons to different approaches, but it's but I guess what I want to say is that there's, under this umbrella of mediation, there is an incredible diversity of practices. And my own view in a way, and I guess it's consistent with where we started, is as long as people know what it is that they're choosing, they ought to be able to choose whatever style is going to work for their dispute.